Guys, and welcome to this video which will hopefully finish off this website on Samoa. Now what we're going to do in this particular project, this part of the project, is we're going to create this web page on the history of Samoa from the early history through to basically European contact times. So in this page here, this is essentially complete, although there are a few aspects that we still are going to need to change, which I will talk about in this video as well. The navigation at the top here, we're not going to have this information page, so we need to remove that link and then make the others wider. The sidebar here with the practical information, since we're not going to have that page, we're going to change that text on this page and also on these other two pages here, the Mau Movement 1 and also the index page. Okay, so going back to the history page, the other thing I want to do is these headings here, the 18th century, 19th century, since they've got H3 tags around those, I want to make them a smaller size than the European contact, which is the H2 tags. Some images, I've decided that they look better on the right, so I have a bit of a visual mix there rather than them all being left aligned. So we're going to make a change to the .caption CSS rule as well, and we'll use a combination of that CSS style with float left and right, those two CSS styles, to move the images where I want them. So on the index page here, okay, that's basically going to remain unchanged for that, but the Mau Movement 1, we're going to have this image on the right and also this one here. Okay, so coming back to the history page, how we're going to create that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my index page, go File, and I'm going to save that as history. Now this is the same process as we used to create the Mau Movement page, using the index page essentially like a template. So let's save that, and here once again we have now a copy of the index page, but now called history. Now what I need to do is I need to go and get the text I want on this page. Now what I've done here is I've put this text for the history page here, and I've left a bit of the code in for this. So I just want to show you what I mean by that. So here it is open in Notepad++. So as you can see, if you run your eye down here, you'll see that there's quite a bit of the HTML tags left in there. So I'm just going to open that text file, which I've already done here. Let's highlight it all and copy that. Move Notepad++ out of the way. Go back to where I'm working. And once again, I want to make sure that I'm putting that inside the content section, but not overlapping or removing the news box. And I want to leave that link to the top of the page in there already. So basically from what I had before. So let's now paste that in. Okay, let's save that and have a look at that in a browser. Okay, so that's looking quite good. As you can see here, I've already made some changes to the CSS rules, so that's actually going in the right place already. Now, one of the other things which you'll need to do is to make sure that these three images are put into the images folder. Okay, and that's why, because since I've already done that, these images are already coming through, because I've left the path to the images already in here. Right, so going back to my code view here, okay, so this is an image that I want to have of the maps, basically of Central Pacific there. So I'm going to go and grab, oh no, in fact I won't, I'll just type this in. half. Okay, the alt text there, and let's finish that off. Okay, make sure I got the syntax looking right, which I think it is now. Okay, so having done that, let's test it. Yep, that's fine. Now this image here, so let's deal with the CSS issue that I mentioned before. Okay, so I'm going to go to my CSS now. Now here is this caption rule. Now you might recall on your one there should be something like float left in there at the moment. Now the problem with that is that if you apply that caption CSS rule to the divs that we've got around the images, of course they have to be floating on the left, so they're all going to be on the left, and I don't want all the images on the left of my page. So what I want you to do is to remove that float left line and just check your CSS rules that you do have a rule for float left and float right. So here are my two. You should already have these in place because they were used on the index page, so just make sure you've got them there. Okay, so save that CSS. Now I'm going to go back to my source code, and this particular image here, because it doesn't have a caption, I can simply apply a class to it, and it doesn't have to be well, it's not going to be the caption one, it's going to be float left. And let's make that live, and there's the page refreshed, and that's looking pretty good. Now there's another image that needs to go in here, and I'll just show you what we're doing to get the image on the right. Okay, so let's go back to code view here, and let's see where I can find that other image. That's right, of course I've forgotten that I actually only have 3 images on this page here. So let's go to this image here, which is this one, the wrecked vessels at Apia in 1889, okay, which is on the right hand side. So back here in the code, here we've got this structure that we had on the Mal movement page as well. We've got a div with an image inside it and a paragraph, which is essentially the caption. Now we've made that change to the caption rule, so if I take out that float right thing there that I have already put in and go back and view that in the browser and refresh that, okay, this is how it's now going to look because it's not being floated. Essentially it's just taking up like a block element the whole width here, and the paragraphs are underneath that. Okay, so to get this over to the right, we need to float the whole div basically to the right. Now we've already got a float right rule, so let's use it. So notice that you've got a class here already called caption. Now we can apply multiple classes to any particular element, and the way that you do that is inside where it says class equals, and inside the quotation marks here besides caption you just add the other rule in, so it looks like that. So now I've got 2 classes applied to this div. So let's save that and go and have a look at it in the browser and refresh that. Okay, and that's basically working the way that I want it to. Okay, so how is that done again? Add the float right class to the div that you want to have floated to the right, and of course you'd only do that for the ones where you've got captions. If it's simply an image on its own, you can apply the class directly to it like I've done here. So if we wanted this image on the right, and have a look at that in the browser and refresh that, okay, that's how that would look. Okay, now I want it back on the left, so I'm going to go and change that back. Okay, now on the Mal movement page, originally we had all the images basically going down the left hand side. What I need you to do is to get this image, the woman of the Mal movement 1 and the Mal prisoners being transported in up here, on the right hand side like that. So reminder again, okay, so add float right to this div that's currently got a class of caption, and don't forget you must make that change to the caption rule. Okay, alright, so coming back to our history page. Okay, now the only other things I need to just double check here to make sure that I've got all the other tags in place. So I'm just going down the page here, making sure that there's no blocks of text that don't have P tags around it, like for example this one here doesn't, so that needs to be added in. And here's another one. This one here looks like it's a heading, so I'm going to make that looks like an H2 heading because it's a main heading, I think. And paragraphs are all in place. I think that's everything done now. Just make sure again. Okay, that's all good. Now the only thing I want to do is see this H3 heading here. We've got a couple of them. There's like subheadings inside the section on European contact. Now at the moment, if we go to look at our rules, we don't have a rule for H3. So I'm going to add one in. And it's simply going to be the font size again that I want to change. And H2 was 1.1 rem. I think we're just going to make this 1 rem. And we'll have a look at that. If it's not good enough, we'll change it. Okay, let's refresh that. Okay, it's still to me not enough contrast between that heading and then the subheading, so I am going to make that just a little smaller. Again, refresh this and make it just a little bit more obvious what we're looking at. Yeah, that looks better to me. Okay, they look like more different subheadings. Okay, that's all good. Now, the navigation. Okay, we only have 3 links here, so let's actually deal with the links first. Okay, we now have a new page called History, and so on this navigation I'm going to put that link in and take away the information 1. Now I've got my index page open and the Mal movement page also open, so what I want to do is just test to see if this works properly. I suppose the easiest way of doing that is let's just copy that whole nav section and let's go to code view for the index page and replace that, save that, open this in a browser. So here it is inside a browser. Notice I've only got 3 links now. Let's click on the history one. Yeah, and that's working fine. Okay, if I click on home, that should take me back to there. That should take me to the Mal movement. Mal movement, we didn't change the navigation yet, and when I click on history, that shouldn't work because we hadn't made that change on that page yet. So let's go and do that. Navigation section on the Mal movement page. Let's paste that in. Okay, so that should all be good, and now let's fix up the width. So let's find where we've got the width being set for our navigation part, which is here. It was the list items. Now currently the width is 25%, Now I'm going to change that to 33.3, and hopefully, because of this right margin being negative, we should still have successful navigation, but taking up the whole width of the page now. And why 33.3%? Because that's a third of 100%, or pretty close to it anyway. Okay, so let's go back to there and let's have a look at that in live view and refresh the page. Okay, that's actually looking, yeah, pretty good. I'm not a great fan of massively wide buttons, but actually that doesn't look too bad. So, yep, that's good. So let's now test this inside the browser again. Let's refresh that page, and hopefully all three pages are now linked. Okay, and the Mail Movement 1 is working as well. Okay, all good. Last thing we need to do, the very last thing, this practical information. Since we don't have that anymore, we need to change that. Now, on OneNote, I've put this couple of paragraphs of text that I'm going to replace the practical information with these two small paragraphs here. So I'm going to copy this, go back to where I'm working. Let's go to the index page for a start, and let's make the change here. Right, so this is practical information. I'm going to call this instead culture and location. Get the spelling right, and let's paste that in. Okay, we don't have any tags, so we need to put those in. Okay, let's tidy up the code just a little bit. That's all good, and let's have a look at that in live view and refresh that. Okay, so that's looking pretty nice, pretty good. Okay, having done that, let's now go and back to my other two pages, but first on the index page here, since I've already put all these tags in place, okay, I'm just going to take that whole first news box div, copy that, Mail Movement, go where the code is, and this is it here. Paste that in, save that, history page, first news box, make sure I get all the code for that, including that little right arrow there. Paste that in, have a look at it, make sure it looks right, which it does, save that. Okay, and with that, I think we have now finally finished our Samoa site, and let's just test it now in a browser. So I'm just going to test it in Torch. Okay, and because I opened the history page first, that's what opens there. Okay, so checking that over, checking that link. That looks good. Now of course we've got one issue down here because we still have that information link, so that's why you test things, to have a look at those things. And when you're testing it, don't just sort of glance over it, make sure it looks appropriate, but also that everything is where it should be. Okay, so last thing we need to do, that bottom nav. So let's go to our index page, let's take out that link to information. And I think that's such a simple thing to do. I'm just going to do that on each of the three pages. And let's reopen that again. Okay, so home. Yep, the bottom's fine. test the other two pages, check them, make sure these links here, are they working? That history one, no, it's not working. Okay, so that's links working. But if I go to the history page, it doesn't work, so I hadn't actually fixed up the links down here, had I? Okay, so this is the history one, and that should be history.html. Save me a little bit of typing if I just copy that and put it on the other two. Okay, it's a surprisingly common thing for students not to actually have all their links working properly, so take time to check it. Okay, so here it is in Chrome. Test that, takes me to there, takes me to home, takes me back to Mal movement. I realise I've got an extra triangle. No, I don't. Okay, on the home one, notice that the extra little closing bracket there. So let's go and find that. There it is. And one last check. Yep, that's all good. And I think we finally have finished. Okay, brilliant guys. So that's our Samoa website finished off. Okay, in the next project it's going to be you creating your own website. So there'll be more detail on OneNote about that, but you would need to start thinking about that very actively and start gathering materials together. And one of the things you need to be aware of is that for the standard, it specifies specifically that all content, all images I should say, have to be your own original ones. You cannot get anything from a place like Google Images or any other place, even if they are royalty free or copyright free. So we need to talk about that in class, and we will do so, I think, early this coming week. Okay, catch you then.